Hey, welcome to Miss Beverley Manley. Like, gosh, I never know I'd be here. I'd be saying this myself. Because normally, you're the one who interviews me.
Of course, I interview you all the time.
Yeah, and right now...
And I'm so impressed with your knowledge about immigration issues. I thought you're an immigration lawyer.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'm now interviewing you again, you realize
that? You see what I mean, The point, though, however, is that you are my guest today.
Yes.
And we are indeed honored to have you.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Welcome to New York once more.
Thank you so much.
Your book that takes you here. And I hear it's a talk of the town, and I must apologize. I have not read it yet because I need to go on vacation and sit down and read it properly. My wife tells me that it's a fantastic book. My friends tells me it's a fantastic book. But I don't need them to tell me that because I know that whatever Beverley Manley puts herself to, success is in the stars. How is the book so far?
It's going well. It's taken on a life of its own, really. I tell people that I wrote it, got it published, and then I thought that was the end of it. I just never thought beyond publication. I know it sounds crazy, but it was something I felt I had to do. And once I did it, I thought that would be it. Of course, a whole new process began the minute it was published. And to my amazement, there's great demand for it. We have been launching all over North America. I go to Canada next week. And this may be about like maybe the 6th or 7th reading, signing, launch, whatever. And as I say, it's like everywhere you launch it, something else happens. Somebody says, why don't you come to so-and-so? Why don't you do so-and-so? Why don't you? So in a sense, it is running my life right now, and I'm allowing it to do so.
Are you enjoying yourself?
I'm enjoying myself. It's very hectic because it means I'm away from my own show a lot. I'm away from Jamaica a lot. But it's worth it. And you know why it's worth it? The book, yes, but the kind of conversations that arise from the book in the question and answer sessions after I've read from the book. We talk about everything to do with Jamaica. We talk about race. We talk about class. Many of the issues that came out of my own childhood. We talk about politics. Talk about Norman Manley, Edna Manley. All of it is coming out of the book, but it is discussed in a context where it's not just historical, but where the people bring it right up to date. So it wouldn't be unusual, for example, what happened last night. We're at the West Indian Association. What happened last night is that after they discussed the issues in the book, they wanted to know what's the current state of the PNP, who's going to win the leadership race. So it's really fabulous, the stories that we share, the transformation stories that we share around the book.
Let me ask you this. What inspired you to write this book? Because I know that there was no breaking fast without you, and you were with the Breakfast Club for almost 13 years, if not more.
I left the Breakfast Club to write the book, actually.
What inspired you? What caused you to do that?
A number of people had been saying to me for years, why don't you write? Why don't you write your memoirs? And I kind of shrugged it off. And then when young people started to say to me, why don't you write? And I said, why do you want me to write? And they say, because the stories we hear about the 70s are stories told to us by our parents.
Isn't that interesting, though?
Through their experience. And I'm talking about JLP, people out of JLP families and PNP families. And that is what finally made me do it. Young people were saying, we want to hear from somebody like you. You were an activist in the 70s. You are present. You are there. We want to hear your story, so we can now match it against our parents' stories and come to our own opinions on it.
You know, because I'm a product of the 70s, and my images of Beverley Manley is Beverly Anderson, Afro, Angela Davis look on the trail, doing the things that inspired myself as a young person now to become involved. And I look back at it now and I realize that those were the foundation of my existence today. I now consider myself a conservative in pinstripe blue, or a radical in pinstripe blue. Sorry, forget that conservative stuff. I'm voting for change. But I consider myself a radical in pinstripe blue.
Yes.
And I look back at today's young generation and I'm saying to myself, what is it that they will look back at in 20 years, 30 years from now? That would be so inspiring. Because, you know, those were the years, Beverley, that I believe that Jamaica went through some interesting times and laid some foundation. And now for you to say that you were encouraged by young people to write this book, it means in that my generation is passing on information to our youngsters.
But doesn't it show you how little we know? I mean, we can't judge this generation by what we did. in what my daughter would call the old-time days.
Mm.
You know, it's a totally different context. I mean, we could spend a whole hour talking about the difference in the context. We were caught up in the 70s in the Cold War in terms of a civil war that played out in Jamaica, where you had two political parties of equal kind of power among the people. I mean, you could win 9 seats as we did in 1980 and still have almost 50% of the popular vote. You know that. Bruce Golding won last year. The difference in the popular vote between the PNP and the JLP is 3,000 votes after having the PNP in office for 18 years. So what I'm saying, it's hard to say what young people will look back on because we don't even know. Something cataclysmic could happen as we are speaking. So I don't like to use one context to judge another context or one generation to judge another generation. I like to believe that each generation is taking us forward, no matter how we see it. Like from my generation or from yours, how we'd like it to be. To me, it's just not even a relevant discussion. Because they're taking us to places we've never seen.
Oh, yes, well done.
And they're great. Jamaica is in good hands in terms of its young people. Good hands.
Yes. And
a lot of them too tell you, they tell you things like, a lot of people, my children, young people will tell me, like, who were radical, like you in the 70s, have ended up broke. We want to make some money first.
That sounds like,
I can't tell them that they shouldn't make some money
That's
first.
right.
Politics has become extremely expensive.
Oh, yes.
And if you go into poverty broke, into poverty, that's a Freudian slip, into politics broke,
usually going
into poverty broke, into politics broke, you are in real trouble. So a lot of them want to get themselves organized before they come in. It has its consequences, but I understand it.
The book, the memoirs, obviously when people see Manley, I think what comes to many people is Michael Manley. Especially here in the diaspora in the Northeast, I remember after leaving Jamaica and he was out of office, then the Caribbean clubs were very active and aggressive here at Hunter College, CCNY, and they would have him come up to speak. So, just the name Manley itself brings forth that type of attention. And you being the conduit, what has been the response from community as it relates to, your relationship with the Manley?
All right, let me put that in 2 parts. One, the people who have not read the book have a fear. I hope you don't destroy me, leader, I hope you don't go write anything what you shouldn't write, because that's my God, okay?
Right.
You get that. Having read the book, you get a completely different reaction. People say it's a balanced book. They may object to 1 or 2 things that they see in the book that maybe they felt I shouldn't have said. But overall, the reaction to the book has been amazing, beyond my wildest dreams. People actually read it, they get a better understanding of what happened then. They get a better understanding of Michael, the person. Like when I say Michael was an insecure person, they say, what? Michael used to stammer, what?
He did?
When he first started speaking, when he first came back to Jamaica, after his stint in London at LS, London School of Economics. And he came back, interestingly enough, at a time when the party had split in 1952. And the left wing had been expelled. And he was one of the main people on the streets of Kingston and St. Andrew, rebuilding the groups. I say interesting because whoever wins the PNP elections, and by the time this program is aired, we'll know who that is, that rebuilding is going to have to take place. But he used to tell me how he'd get up and speak at a group meeting, and he just kept on speaking because he never knew how to stop.
Okay.
And sometimes when you hear people speak who don't know when to stop, it's just inexperience. You think you're finishing and then you get nervous and you start again. And he said that used to be a big problem with him, in addition to this stammer thing, which he had to work on because he was a very nervous speaker in the beginning. So there are people who get things from it who say, wow, it's given me a better understanding into the man. And I think when they realize it's not a tell-all to the extent that I want to destroy anybody, they're all right with it.
Good. Brothers and sisters, our special guest this week is Miss Beverley Manley, and she has written a book called The Memoirs. And I tell you, you better go out and get it because this is the real deal. You're watching Caribbean Lifestyle TV. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Physically very active, and of course, perhaps the most handsome man in the country.
Darling, you're so beautiful.